I think it's because most of us come from team games, if not traditional sports, which are usually team games in themselves, that we want to retain the control that we had given up in the past playing team games. We want to be responsible for the outcomes of our own actions, not leave it in the hands of others. And I think that's why a lot of people flee to fighting games, to escape that team environment to some degree, until you realize that there is some camaraderie within the fighting game community, just not in the traditional sense of we're all going to work together towards a common goal. We can work together to help you reach your common goal, and in that sense it is kind of teamwork, but it's more based around your objectives and your goals. And I think that's appealing to a lot of fighting game players. And so what I think becomes the hardest thing for a fighting game player to accept is when you lose due to circumstances that are outside of your control, because it makes you a little angry, a little upset, and a little bit betrayed. Now, there's one major thing that's going to come to mind when you think about this, and that's lag. And we'll get to it later on in the video, but I think there's some other more important details to discuss that sometimes get overlooked. Let's start with balance patches. I think, to me, this is going to sound like the most Zoomer thing you've ever heard, but to me, it is crazy to think that everybody who started in the arcades, if a character shipped, if that version of the game shipped with a character that was completely busted or broken, like, I'm not talking about overpowered or anything, I'm talking about legitimately broken, like they have an infinite where they just press a button and something happens and, you know, whatever, like Grappler's Infinite, where it was super easy and it was like a glitch. If a game shipped with that back when you guys were playing in the arcades, you just played that game until the next version came out and you hoped that the arcade bought the new board or something. I don't really know how it works. I'm a fucking child when it comes to how long some of you guys have been playing these games. But now we don't have that issue. We don't have to pay for a whole new version of a game in order to get a big balance patch. They're just seasonal and they come and go. But I know some people don't like this because your character can become a drastically different being, you know, by the end of the patch or the end of the patch cycle. Your character can go from top tier to bottom tier, and it's not a good feeling, right? Some people will stick with their characters, some people feel like in order to be competitive they need to switch, and that is an aspect that's out of your control, right? You can't decide whether Capcom's going to nerf or buff your character, or what they're going to do to the gameplay, or what system mechanics get added into the game that might nerf your character, like V-Shift nerfs some characters. I don't know specific ones because I don't really play any that were super affected by them, but I know that some characters and some people who play grapplers especially don't like V-Shift. But it's tough. You have to accept that your character from the beginning of the game to the end of the game will not be the same. Some of them will change drastically, some of them will change in very minor ways, but for the next 6 years of this game, your character is not going to always be the same. You know what else kind of plays into balance patches and things like that, and things that you can't control are DLC characters. You can't control what character is going to come out, and you can't control how strong they're going to be. And some people are fed up with it, especially in the Tekken community, right? You had Leroy, you had Lydia, you had Fakaram. I think Kunimitsu is good now. I don't really know. But those three alone, the three that we know were really good when they came out, Leroy, Lydia, Fakaram, that it's pretty ridiculous, right? It's pretty crazy that a character can come out for $5.99, you're playing a top tier. And if you don't want to play the character, you still have to buy the character in order to lab it, which I think is a pretty terrible thing, but I know why they do it, right? They got to make their money. The point is, those characters come out, they completely shift the meta of the game, and you have to accept it. You can't do anything about it. So you adapt and you learn the matchup, or you quit the game. I know people who have quit DBFZ because of Android 21 lab coat, and can you really blame them? I've never seen a character so egregious in modern times, in patch culture, that a TO has had to ban them at major tournaments. And I'm not even going to talk about Guilty Gear Strive because I don't understand the patches enough. All I do is open a stream for a big tournament, see Naga do a counter hit Beyblade for half HP, and close that shit because I know I'm not playing that game, and they're never going to nerf any of those characters. It's not how ArcSys does things. They just keep buffing other things to make everybody kind of broken. That's what it seems like to me. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments below. If you're an ArcSys veteran, let me know in the comments below. That also seems to be the philosophy around DNF Duel. Everybody seems a little bit broken, which I guess in turn makes everybody balanced if everybody is broken, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way. The first time I ever heard that was from a community manager at Infinity Ward during Modern Warfare 2, where somebody tweeted at him and said, every gun in the game is broken. And he said, well, if everything's broken, it's inherently balanced. And that's what I feel like ArcSys does. But again, if balance patches are done right, I think they're a good thing for the game. It gives it longevity. But I think there's a balance to be struck in terms of the timing. Like, you can't do what Tekken 7 does, where they have like a balance patch every 2 fucking years or something, right? When's the last time they had a balance patch for Tekken 7? I have no idea. Street Fighter 5 has one big one maybe twice a year, maybe once a year. And then there's games like League of Legends that have updates every 2 weeks. I think that's too much, in my opinion. It's hard I think it'd be hard to form a meta in a fighting game that's getting updated every 2 weeks. Now, I've saved the best for last here. This is the hardest thing for anybody to accept because it's the one that affects us most directly and most negatively. It's got to be lag and netcode. It's the thing that most people are vocal about too, on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media, everywhere. Nobody likes lag and nobody has fun in it. It's one of the very few things that the entire FGC agrees is terrible. And in an age where online fighting games have become so prevalent because of the pandemic and everything like that, and people having to be at home for the past 2 years, that it's the main and sometimes the only way that you can improve. And when you load into a game where the opponent is stuttering everywhere, the game is rolling back, if your game even has rollback, if you're lucky enough to have rollback in your game, and it still doesn't function properly like Street Fighter V, it's better than delay based. That's the only credit I can give to Street Fighter V's netcode. At least it's not delay based. That's all I can say about it. But loading into an environment like that is just so unproductive. Like, it's so not conducive to improving. It makes you feel like you're wasting your time. You're practicing checking dashes and like DPing and stuff in training mode, then you load into the game and this guy's appearing above your head and then down on the ground instantly, right? Things are rolling back, things are happening on the screen that don't make any sense, and you are told to accept it. It's out of your control. You just have to sit there and watch your character get the shit beat out of him while the other guy's lagging everywhere, and he's probably having a good time because it's one-sided rollback. Or he's on Wi-Fi and he's used to it, right? Even in FighterZ games, when you're on Wi-Fi and you're playing a guy who's rolling back between 2, 3, and 4 rollback frames, it feels terrible. Nobody likes lag. It doesn't matter what game you play. And so I salute those people who can load into a game, see it's laggy, and cut their losses and say, yeah, this is fine. I'm just going to accept that this is an unoptimal environment, and this guy is going to take a win off of me. I'm terrible at doing that. You know, it's a character flaw of mine. It's like I feel like he should have to work for his win just as hard as me, but because of outstanding conditions, whatever you want to call it, things that we can't control, he gets to win. He gets to have fun, and I don't, because his internet is worse than mine. He's playing on Wi-Fi. But the faster you can quell those thoughts and just get back to improving and think about the game in a healthy way, the faster you will get better at the game. That's just how it works, and it's hard for me to accept that. It's probably hard for you to accept that, but you got to get over it at some point. And I've got to get over it at some point. It's very much easier said than done, because I can say all this and then load into a game 5 minutes after recording this video and get unrationally angry, like like slamming my desk, unrationally angry at the 50 bad connections I'm gonna get, and then I'll still queue up afterwards because I'm conditioned by not FighterZ, by Capcom to accept what they've given me if I want to play their game. So yeah, let's work on that together, and hopefully we can overcome our anger, because I know there's a lot of you guys who are just like me in the comments below, and some of you have already gone through this, but I'm learning it now, and I just wanted to share it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for watching.